Yeah, I'm alive. I'm live. Let's check this on the second computer. Am I really live? Okay, but I don't hear. Oh yes. No. Okay. So now I'm hearing myself on the second computer. So this is part of my test process before webinar. And it looks okay, and because still I'm working on creating YouTube channel now in English, I don't have many viewers, so I will assume based on my test on my second computer that you can hear me and you can also see what's on my desktop, my screen. If you have any questions during webinar, you can ask them on the chat. I'll be looking on the second monitor to see the chat menu, uh, chat screen, and but not top chat. I need to change to live chat, and then I will see all of the questions from you. They will happen. Okay. Um, so we are be starting this webinar about Power Query, and I'm called Adam Kopeć, Excel lover from Poland, Microsoft most valuable professional since 2017, and for now author of two books in English, Excel Superhero, and Learning Power Query, about which we have this webinar. Hello, Amman. And if you want to learn more about this book, you can click on the link in the so the most important thing on the top chat, you should see the link to zipped files for this webinar. This link should be also in the video description, and you can load import zip file from that, and you need to unzip to a new folder to work with me today or any other day you watch this video. And I hope you can see this link, because I see this link on my second monitor, and it's also in the video description, so you should find it. And when you zip this file, so extract files from the zipped file, so it should be a zip file, and when you extract you should get one PDF folder and three main files. Yeah, you won't have tests folder, and so you have those information in PDFs folder. We have some PDFs. We will try to extract information from one of them, and we have one CSV file from we will start extracting data. This will be our first example, and you also have our main Excel file in which you can find some information about me, so about those books and about my Polish books and courses. For now in English only two books, but I'm working on other stuff, so probably in the future there will be some courses also. And today we will be extracting the information from text files, will be merging tables with additional aggregations, will be grouping with summarizing information in unusual ways, and we will grade students, and we also will import information from PDF files. And because this webinar is a part of promotion of my book Learning Power Query, so I will put a link Yeah, so make it just on the link, not this here. Let's put it here in the chat. Link to the main publisher page with this book learning power query, and when you choose EPUB ebook version and you add this to chart and go to checkout, you can use promo code learn PQ power query and then apply, and you will get 10% discount for this ebook. Unfortunately, publisher didn't give me discount code for print book, so this is all okay. So we can work with this paperback, but you can find, and if you have some kind of promotion discounts on Amazon, you can also find this learning power query book on Amazon, and here you can also find it here. Okay, and it's more important thing, so, the promotion part of this webinar, and I will probably mention about this at the end of the webinar or somewhere in the middle. And now we should be able to start working with our data. Okay, but because it's a webinar for free in most cases, even because you don't need to buy book, you should remember about some simple rules I'm attaching to this webinar. So this webinar, because it's on YouTube, is being recorded, and its recording will be publicly available until Monday morning. And because I'm from Poland, this time is a bit actually, and when I remember, I will unpublic this recording, so it would be hidden. If you want to receive the file after the webinar and direct link to the recording not disappear on Monday, you can sign up for newsletter there, and this newsletter and link it's on the English worksheet link here on the top of this. So let's make it a bit zoom. You can find this link, and I don't want to make enough more links on the chat, so you can find it's here, and in video description it should be also available. Okay, and this point, it should be mandatory for not only for this free webinar but for all free webinars you are attending, so we repay with a like, and for ambitious ones there is also share button. And yes, and the file for downloading during the webinar is available in the description, so you should find this webinar. I hope so you find those files and could zip them. Okay, so first of all, we'll be extracting information from text file. To be precise, this is CSV file, but this file don't have strict delimiters. It has fixed width of columns. So we have a file, sales length, CSV file, and I will open with Notepad, and we can see in this file we have 5 columns: date, merchant, product, revenue, and costs, and each of columns has the same length. Each row for this column have in each row those columns have the same length. So we have, for example, merchant Aladdin, and we have some spaces to always make this the same length. And Power Query should detect properly most of this information, how wide those columns are, but if he want in that shorter, small length and links file, you can find this sequence of numbers. Those numbers we will be needing for properly extracting information from this CSV file. And you will also find the links for book on BPB publisher and on Amazon. So this sequence will be important for us, but we should just remember 42 should be enough to remember this number. And it doesn't matter for this webinar. Okay, so this file. So we have additional spaces, and this is important in later transformations. And we also, in the case of revenue and cost column, we have situations, some rows, I think 2 rows, when the value, the revenue value from revenue column, it's glued together with costs, and we don't have any spaces. And because of that, Power Query won't find exact number of columns we need. Okay, so let's close this file for now and then go to our Excel file. And to work with this webinar, you should have at least Excel 2016, when the Power Query become the part of official part of Excel. So when you are installing Excel, you also installing Power Query, and you will find Power Query on Data tab on the left side. Those are commands from Get and Transform Data Group. Those commands we will want to use, and the most important are the top, and some more advanced ones are hidden here. And way before we start extracting information from CSV file, I want to go query options to tell you something about regional settings for this file. So query options, and we go to not global but current workbook and regional settings, and those settings should be set on English United States, so each number will be treated like in USA. And you should remember about this. And that's why the numbers are, the revenue and costs are in dollars also, because of that. Okay, so let's load this information from the file to Excel. So on Data tab, we are going to command from text or CSV file, and it doesn't really matter if our information are in text, txt file or CSV file for this, because Power Query will decipher this the same way. So we just have to find the folder in which we unzipped our informations, our files, and we want to import load information from sales length CSV file. We can double click it or select it and click import button. It doesn't really matter which way you choose, because we will get the same results. So this user interface window, sales length CSV file, so our navigator window, and I will make larger fonts. And when I'm making the font larger, the third option of the settings are hiding below, so I must have make this window wider. And now I have 3 columns with settings. First one, file origin, so connect to regional settings from which part of the world this file origin from, and it's about just science codes. And in this file case, it should be UTF-8. And because I'm from Poland, one of the most cases I will also find Western European DOS, for example. It's also quite valid information. Most cases Windows, of course, also valid, and some Central Europe, yeah, is also here. But in this case, Power Query find that UTF-8 is proper coding for this file, and we can find this. It also find that we don't separate our columns with fixed delimiters or custom delimiters. So custom delimiters means we can even use more than one sign as a delimiter. In this case, but in this case, we have fixed width, and Power Query starts the number of signs from the start of the line. So this first 0, it's here. Then we have 10, and this 10 is from this 0 point till here. And then we have 20. Let's make it the screen. And this 20 is from, once again, from the start of the line to this point. And I think I have also pink one color for the cursor, and I can once again from the start and here. And thanks to that, we have 4 columns, but we need 5 columns, and just I said before, because information from revenue and cost column in some rows are glued together, sticks together. There are no any space between one number and the second number. Power Query didn't properly find the 5th column positioned, so we should add this manually. So for this example is 42, and when you write 42, so comma 42, you can click on our data here, and you will get the refreshed results. And when we change those numbers, we can see that we don't see any dollars. Now when I'm delete this last number and once again click it, it's refreshed our preview, and we can see dollar signs here and here, for example. But when I add the 5th column length, we don't see any dollars, because Power Query in a 3rd column of settings detect data type based on the first 200 rows. This CSV5 is small, it don't have even 100 rows, so it can Power Query properly detect those values as currency, and so it deletes dollar signs, so currency signs, and properly aligned numbers to the right side of the column. And now we can transform our data further. If we are sure our data is correct and we want to load it directly to Excel, we can press load button or expand this menu and load to, but it almost never happens, so we need to transform our data. And in case of files with fixed width, it's really necessary to transform our data to remove unnecessary spaces. Yes, we have too many spaces in this example, and once again I'll make a larger font, Ctrl Shift plus sign, it should work for Power Query Windows. And we have our data in the middle of the Power Query editor. We should have queries tab on the left side, and we can see the name of our query is sales length, and we can see also the table icons. Let's make red table icon, and we can change here table name and also query name. But for now, for our purpose, the default name based on the file name is okay. And we can also change this name on the right side on query settings, properties, name. And beneath the name, we have applied steps. So what Power Query did to our data. And first step is a source. So from where it import load our data. And our source, when we have at least Excel 2021, I think, so a newer version of Excel, the Power Query code is color coded, so we'll see some colors here. In previous version, unfortunately, all is black, grayish, something like that. And so we can see this is from a CSV file, and we can see our numbers for the columns width and our information, and this code is for our UTF-8 coding. Okay, this is our first step, and to see formula bar on the view tab, you should check formula bar checkbox. You can also check always allow parameters. So we will see in some cases when we can add parameters. But in this webinar, we won't be talking about parameters, only in this checkbox. Okay, so for now, home tab and our first tab, source. And we can see our first row has column headers. So by default, Power Query should detect this row as column headers, so column names. And we can see this is exactly this step. And in the next step, we can see change type. So data type has been changed by Power Query automatically. By default, you should have this step. And we have a problem with this step because in a promote header step, each column is treated as ABC, so as a text. Now, change type, we can see currency type, so dollar signs, we can see for revenue and cost column. We can see data type for date column, this proper icon, and text for merchant and product. And there are some problems with our data. When we have formula bar, we can see that there are some spaces, too many spaces in our information. And what exactly happened? We can't expand and collapse formula bar if the formula is larger here also. And let's go to promote headers step, select this step, and let's select any cell in merchant column, for example Aladdin, and we can see only Aladdin, but Power Query extract Aladdin and some spaces at the end of this text. So because this is text, Power Query thinks spaces are important, but in many cases leading and trailing spaces aren't important, so we want to remove them, delete them. And when we go to for example date, we can see also some additional spaces, and let's select some small numbers. When we select this, we can also see some more spaces. But when we change type, data type, the numbers are properly formatted. So Power Query get information, change this text to numbers. I can do it, but in numbers I have to remember, Power Query have to remember, spaces aren't needed in most cases. So it removes those spaces and also dollar signs. And the same happen with dates. It's properly formatted as a date. So month, day, year in this format, and we can see this information. So, but we still have spaces in text column, and more important, we have spaces in our header's name. But when I'm clicking too many times on the headers, Power Query adds rename columns step. So I don't need, I could change all columns like this. You can see merchant with spaces is changed to merchant, just merchant, but still all products have trailing spaces. We don't need them. So to properly transform this data, we should add some transformation before promoting headers. And to make it simpler, let's remove almost all the step. Let's leave only source, and we can delete step just clicking the right X to the left side of the step name, and we can just get the source name. Now, to remove unnecessary spaces, we can trim our text. So we have to select all columns, just like in Excel. Select the first column, hold Shift key, and click on the last column. But something additional happens. I think Power Query thought I want to move something. So just column 1, column last column, column 5, fifth column. Just like in Excel, with Shift or with Control can select not continuous cases, columns. Okay, so the most important thing, we should have to select all columns, and then on the Transform tab we can format our data. So in Format command, when we expand, we have trim options, and it's important that this trim works a bit different than in a trim in Excel, because it's removing leading and trailing spaces, white spaces. No, this trim won't remove additional spaces between words. Okay, so trim this information, and now we get trim text. For each column, you can see in our formula bar, the trim option function was added. And now we can use our first row as headers, because let's select any of this first row cells. We don't have trailing spaces. So from the menu, table menu, we can use first row as headers. And by default, Power Query should add promote headers step and also change type step. If the change type step wasn't added, so I will delete this, we can select all our columns, and then on Transform tab we can detect data types, and we'll get the same results. Basically, we can see our data types change, and we have proper data types now, and we properly transform our data information, and we don't have unnecessary spaces here. So now this is all we want to do it. In this example, we can go home and expand, close and load command, and I'll always choose close and load too. I don't want to remember what exact options I check in Power Query options, so I will always choose close and load to choose in this import data window where I want to put my data. So in this example, I want to load it to Excel as a table, not pivot table or pivot chart, and In other examples, we will create only connections, so the data will be loaded to only Power Query, so it will be at the backstage of Excel. And we want to not in the new worksheet but in existing worksheet, and in the basically it should be text worksheet A1 cell, and we can press OK here, and we can see our information in Power from CSV file load to Excel. And one simple thing here also, we should remember that currency data type in Power Query, it's not the same as number format from Excel. We can, for example, select whole columns here, and we can't add currency number format here, so we will get dollars here, or we can even use different currencies if we need. Dollar is enough for this example. And we should remember when we refresh this information, because we still have 5 columns, we will get the currency formatting number format stays. Okay, so Control S to save our Excel file, and now we will change our CSV file. So right click for me, open with Notepad. Some new lines in file. I don't, and it doesn't matter how many, it need to be at least one in the file. And Control S to save this file. So I have some additional information at the start of our file, at the top of our file, and now when I Control S, so save this file, go to Excel and try to refresh our query, so this query will do all of saved steps, applied steps once again, and when we refresh we should get an error in something like the com date of the table wasn't found. And in such situation we need to check what went wrong. So on the right side you should have queries window. If it won't open on the data tab, there should be somewhere here and query and connection, query connection, and you should based on that just double click this option and go back to Power Query Editor. If this you can't find this window, you can select one cell in this table, in this query, and the query tab should be the last one in Excel, and then we can go edit. This should always be visible when we are working with tables from Power Query. Okay, and once again I need to make font larger, and now I still see my data, but we can see some red lines, and it's because Power Query remembers the last transformations we did but didn't refresh preview. So on the home tab we need refresh preview, and now we can see the same error, the information like in Excel. The column date of the table wasn't found, and the tails date. Not much to go on with this, and should be, I don't see, so there should be a button, but I don't see this button right now. Okay, I remember because in the last step is the step with an error, we won't see a button. But if we will have more, so I just add change some custom step. Now I can see go to error, so go to the step with an error. Okay, I don't need this custom step, so change type here with have an error. Power query couldn't find date column. Why? Let's go to previous step. In previous step, our first column is called sum. Why? Because I added this new lines, some new lines in file. And based on our first step after the source code, we have trimmed text, and then we promote headers. And based on that, we get sum for our first column name. So change type couldn't work with this. So we need a way to remove first lines, and because we'll be working with those informations, those are simple steps. It will be easier to delete them, and then we will add them once again later. So okay, we have trimmed text. This step is okay, we don't have any errors, but we have, in my case, 6 rows that we don't need. And on the home tab we have command remove rows, and we can remove top rows, bottom rows, alternate rows. In this example we want to remove top rows, but this option, user interface, allows me to remove hard-coded number of rows. Let's make 3 for example. Okay, and I removed 3 rows, top rows. I don't see them, but I'm not sure how many unnecessary rows I have in files. So I need a way to find the number of rows I need to delete. And I should also remember the function that was used to remove top to remove top rows is called table skip, and we can see that table skip function refers to previous step name and removes number of steps. Okay, so once again, this step we'll need this later, so remove this step, and now we will add column, index column. So on add column tab we are going to index column. We'll expand this command and we need start from 0, and we can assume that the date column will always be the first column in our data. So when the value in the first column is date, we want a value of our index. So it's a number of rows we need to remove from the top. So once again, we'll be adding column, but this time it will be conditional column. And this conditional column can be called just custom, because it will be forgotten, not remove forgotten just in the next step. So we can leave it like this, and if column 1 operator equals and value, so we can write a value. So in our example it's text date, or we can choose the information from different column, or even use parameter, because we don't have parameters, so we don't have actually in this option. Okay, so if column 1 is equals to date, what we want value from different columns. Select column, which column? Index column. And else, so if column 1 isn't equals to date, what we want null, so empty value, null value. And it's important, this is some different than blank in Excel, that just an empty cell in Excel or empty text string. It's a bit different, because we can see those cells are empty basically. But null values is something a bit different in Power Query than just empty cell. And in this case, we should work with null value. It will be better. A bit, but okay. So we get our custom column, and we have here only, let's use filters to show it, null values and 6 in my example. So I don't need filters. Okay, that a step unnecessary. And we have 6. So we can see the number of rows we need to delete, but we need to extract it for Power Query. So on the transform tab, when we select this custom column, we can use statistics, and we can sum the values from column, find the minimum value, maximum value, and other stuff. And we can choose minimum value or maximum value. It doesn't really matter because we have only one number here. So I will go with minimum value. And thanks to that, in the next step, calculate minimum, I get my 6, so the numbers of rows to remove from the top. And we can also see that our query result, the last result of the query, is a number. So the icon for a query in our query tab change from table icon to 1, 2, 3, so the number icon. But this isn't very important, because the most important thing is now we have the number of rows we want to remove, but our data basically disappear. It's in a previous steps, and from which step we want to remove comes from the step trimmed text. How can we do it? We can go to our last step and click on fx icon add step function here, and when we add fx, by default just refers to the previous step. We don't want to refer to the previous step. We first of all want to use table dot skip function. And in Power Query, it's very important, Power Query is case sensitive, so the case of the letters matter. So table dot skip uppercase letters first, and then we need to refer a table, and in most steps we have tables as a results, so we need to refer the step trimmed text. And if in the newer version of Excel, Power Query should give our hints. When I start writing trimmed text, we should get this reference. If you don't get this reference, those hints, you have to write this manually. So it's important because the text for the name of this step has a space in it. Power Query add hashtag and the text is in double quotes. So hashtag before first double quote and end double quote, and then trimmed text. And this is our table skip that skips 0 rows, but we need to skip some rows, and this skip row numbers is in calculate minimum step. So we can see count or condition. So we calculate minimum value, the numbers of rows to skip from the top. Enter, and we can see we remove proper number of rows. And once again we can use first rows as headers, and change type should be add as by default. So we can now close and load to. We don't need to use this option. We basically can't use this option because this query is already loaded to Excel, and we just need to click close and load button. And once again, Ctrl S. Now everything looks fine. And once again, I will change my CSV file. So open with a notepad. I will remove all unnecessary lines. Ctrl S to save this file and refresh my table in Excel, and we still get proper results. Still have currency form numbers format for revenue and costs columns. Why still this operation still working? Because table skip function can remove 0 rows, and thanks to that all is fine. So we get our first example, and it was a bit hard one. Some of the next one are simpler. So now let's merge some information, and we have two tables. We have smaller table with invoice ID and clients names, and we have larger tables with details about those invoices, and we want to combine those information, but we don't need exact information from details table. We just want some summarizing. So for example, we want to find how many items were on invoice. So we want to count number of items, not the quantity, the number of basically rows. And we want to sum unit price and find an average from it. It's good. Those should be enough calculation for us for this example. And to do it, we will need to merge those tables. So those are Excel tables. You can see this by selecting one cell, at least one cell in those tables. We'll see table design tab. So we knew those are tables, and we want to load those tables to Power Query, and we'll need to start from the larger table. And I have also color coded rows to see exactly which rows match which invoice ID. Okay, so first one cell in the larger table, data tab, and from table range load to Power Query. And in this example, data, we will assume that this is all we need from our data. So we can expand, close and load button, and close and load 2. Because this time I don't want to load this data again to Excel, so I'm only creating connection. So those information, this table will be at the backstage of Excel, so it will be only in Power Query, and we can press OK. And if you have queries window opened, you should see T-details connection only. In the case of our first example, first table, we should see 77 rows loaded. Those are data rows. Rows loaded. The header row doesn't count for this count. Okay, but we need to go to merge worksheet, and this time load also the invoices table. So select one cell, once again data tab, and from table range to Power Query, larger font. And now in queries tab we can see we have load 3 queries, 3 tables to Power Query, and we want to combine information from T invoices and T details tables, and we want to add just some summaries to the invoice table, and we can do it by choosing from the home tab merge queries command. When we expand this command, we can see we can also merge queries as a new. So we combine information from two tables and create a new query, new table. We don't need new query, new table, so we don't need to expand this command. We can just click merge queries. And when we are merging queries, we are merging always two queries. We have a top, left, so it's our top table in the user interface is called left outer join, so left table based on join kind, and the details and our bottom table, lower table, it's the right table. So top and bottom, and this is left, this is right in join kind, and we will be using just left outer. So we now need to select columns based on which we want to combine, merge those tables, and it's invoice ID. And when we select, so just click on the proper columns in top and bottom table, we can see we have matched just for 3 out of 3 rows. So for each row from the top left table, we have at least one match in our bottom right table. And because for this example is enough, we can just press OK. And now Power Query added column T details, and in this column we can see tables, to be precise, rows from our T details table that match invoice ID. So 2, 3, 5, the last digits on those invoices, and we can see two IDs, three IDs, and five IDs rows. So the numbers are correct, the numbers of rows are correct. Now we want to expand, make some calculations based on those information, those tables added to our invoices, and we need to expand it. And to be more precise, we don't want to change expand option, we want to check aggregate options, because we don't need more rows, we need some aggregation summaries. And for example, we need sum, and we don't need to use original column name as prefix. So we want to count numbers of rows. We can count of invoice ID or count of item. So we can just select this option, this aggregation. Okay, and then we can use sum of unit prices, but I said I will also want to have an average, but we don't see any averages here, just sums and count. Where we can find our average? When we select one of those aggregations, so basically one of those columns, on the right side we will see drop down menu, and we can see here checkboxes. We can add average also, median, minimum, max, count, all count, non-blanks. We want sum and average. And for our items we can also check a bit more calculations, but we just need count, and because it's text column, it has different aggregation than the number column, and everything looks fine. So we can press OK, and based on that we should have the count of items, sum of unit price, and average of unit price in this information. But we have small errors with our data. This errors is basically because the added step aggregate details didn't give proper data types for our columns, and we can change those data type for example from pop-up menu, column menu, and we can change its currency here, and it's also currency here. And it's important especially with averages because we could find some small numbers far on the right side after the dot, so decimal part, and we don't need. And we can change this to currency type. But when we do it like this, we'll get an additional step. So we have aggregate step and change data type aggregate step. And when just if we can, we should try to get a small number of steps as possible. If it's convenient, it's easy to do. And in this example, it's quite easy, but we need to have formula bar. And because we change data type, we have the information of this data type. It's currency.type. So we can copy this text. To be precise, we need comma, space, and currency type. This whole text will be adding to our aggregated text. And it's not for list count, it's for units prices. A list sum of unit prices, and at the end of this part we can control V, so paste this currency type. So our summary aggregation for unit price column is based on the list.sum function. New column name is sum of unit price, and we will adding currency type for this. And when I go at the end and press enter, it should be accepted. If it won't be accepted, we have also this check mark, so we can apply our changes. And I need this also for the unit price average. And now I have in one step the columns with proper values, it seems, at least. So sometimes I don't need these values, and it seems like this is working for now. So let's leave it like this. We can see dollar sign. So sometimes we can change data type in functions in formula bars, sometimes not, sometimes it won't work exactly as it should supposed to, but we have to remember to change this. And we can, for example, average, and let's change this average of unit price, name of the new column, so for average price. This part we can also change in one step. We don't need to change rename columns in another steps. Okay, so this is enough changes for this example. So home tab, close and load to. And table, existing worksheet and not B3, so at least B14 or A14 page. And once again, when we load currency data tab from Power Query to Excel, we won't get currency number format. We will get the just custom. No, it's just general formatting. Okay, Control Z, yeah, general formatting, but I prefer currency formatting, so we need to remember about this to work with this correct. Okay, and Control S, so our second example, if we finished. And it's harder for me to talk about Power Query in English. So let's go to next example. So I want to take 2 hours, and just a small reminder. This webinar is a part of promotion of my newest book, Learning Power Query. When you go to publisher site and Learning Power Query, you can order ebook, add to the chart, and only one, check out, and use promo code LearnPQ. And in this discount code, this page isn't case sensitive, so I can write is LearnPQ or all small letters, and it will also be added. Okay, so I had all those segregation. Okay, now we can this was just small reminder, and now we can work with our next example. This time we want to group information in a special way. One of these grouping summarizes will be special because we want to group by our merchant. We want to count number of transactions, so we have results based on Excel formulas. So we can use COUNTIF to count the number of transactions, number of rows, the times merchant appear, SUMIF to sum income, average income, and we want also to find all products that merchant sells and get it as a list of products without duplication. And if we have the table array functions, we can work it quite easily in Excel, but if we won't have it, then we can do it in Power Query with a bit more complicated way, but it is possible. Okay, so once again we have a table. So from data tab, from table range, we are loading information to Power Query, and we get source step. So we are importing information from Excel, current workbooks, and from named sales, so from the table. And we also get change types. And when we are importing data to precise dates from Excel to Power Query, we will always get dates as date and time data type. But in many cases we don't need time part because we have it's midnight, so we don't actually have time. So we can change date and time to just date and replace current step. So so we will get just date, not date time data type, and it looks nicer that way. Okay, now we can group our informations by merchant column, and it will be simple in first step at least. Option command, because we're just selecting column merchant. Then on the home tab we can click on group by command, and we will get group by window. User interface in Power Query is really helpful and in most cases easy to understand. So in our basic option, we will get one column on based on which we grouping our data, and one operation we are doing on grouped data. We need more operations, more aggregations, so we need to go to advanced settings. And now we can add more columns to grouping, but we don't need, we want just one merchant. But if I will add column and I don't need this column, I can click those dots here and delete this column from grouping. Okay, but I need add more aggregation. I need 5 aggregation total, or 4? 4. So just this is not needed. I want to count rows. I want to get sum. I want to get average, and I want something special, so I will be using all rows here, but I will have to change this. Okay, so when I'm counting rows, this column can stay as count. This column names can stay as count. I don't need to choose column because Power Query just counting rows. When I'm summing on calculating averages and more of those calculation, I need to choose the column. So we are summing income column, and we want average from income column also. And when we choose all rows, this also don't need column because we get all rows for merchant, our merchant. So let's just call let's give our column name sum, average, and all, and we can press OK. And now we had grouped our data based on merchant column. We can see the count of sales, count of transactions, we can see sum of income, and we can see average of income. And data type is okay, because the most important and the most hard one is all column, because now we have tables for each merchant, and it's similar to our merge data. We also had rows there, but we don't want to have rows, all rows. We want to get only product column. But before we extract only product column, let's look at grouped rows, so the last step. And in most cases, maybe not in most cases, in many cases, steps have a gear icon on the right side, and when they have this icon, it means we can get back to user interface and change values. But the change we need, it's expands beyond user interface, so we need to expand formula bar. And in this formula bar, we can see in curly brackets step by step our aggregations. So we have just table row count, list sum, and list average, and the last column is called all. And in this column we get for each row what we get, underscore. So Power Query means whole row. So Power Query extracting from our main table all rows for current merchant from this row. So Iago has 3 sales, 3 rows. Abu has 6 rows, 6 sales. But once again, we don't need whole table, we just need column product. So this whole type data type is from type to this uh, square brackets ends. We don't need this, it's too much for us. We will be needing to delete this, first of all, this part with square brackets, because those are the data types for table. We don't need them because we don't need table, we want list, and our list will work when we change underscore to reference to a column product. So okay, it looks okay, no any spelling errors. Okay, okay, it looks good. And now I don't have tables data type, I have list data type. The icon change, and we have also lists, our informations, and we want to combine informations from those lists. But before we do it, we need to remove duplicates, because for example for Yago we have sapphires, emeralds, and once again sapphires, and we just need only one sapphire mentioned. So we need to add after each keyword one more function, list. List, we remember to be precise with so spelling or spelling list, and distinct function. We have to put our product column in a function list distinct. So we have parentheses, so round brackets, then we have square brackets, and we have also curly brackets, many brackets here. And now it should be fine. Okay, yes, I have only unique values, and we have removed duplicates, and we can now expand our lists. And because this column is a list as a list data type, when we're expanding, we can expand to new rows or extract values, and this extract values means basically combine, and we will combine using delimiters. Which delimiter? Custom, and I prefer comma space, and press OK, and we have a list of our products, and we can go home, close, and load to, and we can load our information to table and existing worksheet here, and I can press OK. And for now I can count income, it's some average, yes, I can't. For a short while I can sort this from A to Z in Excel, so I will see the same information, but we have to remember to add currency formatting, and now we see values. Okay, and this don't need so many zeros, so let's remove some decimal points, decrease decimal points here, and now we can see we have the same results using Power Query as using Excel formulas. Sometimes using Power Query formulas will get us result we want to get in Excel, and sometimes it will be easier to do it in Excel, and sometimes it will be faster, so calculation will be done faster in Power Query depending on our data set. Okay, we have this information, Control S, and when I refresh my data, this sorting stays because this sorting is connected to this column. You can see this column is still sorted, so the results from Power Query aren't sorted, but we have add one more layer from Excel. So this data is sorted by Excel, not by Power Query. But we could add one more step to sort data in Power Query. But let's just go to next example. Okay, we have a worksheet called if, and we want to just grade students based on our their results, number of points on the exams, and we have our table with grades based on number of points. So if a student get at least 50 points, he will get a D. To get an A, he needs 90 points. Exactly, at least 90 points. So if it's 90, so Mary should get an A. And we will want to grade them in a fast way. To do it, we will need to load those tables to Power Query, and we will do it with appending data. So I need to load first the grade table with grades. So one cell, data tab, from table range to Power Query, and I can just close and load to this information. I need just connection and OK. The second one, our table T points, is once again data from table range. We will be needing more transformation this time. And it's important that in points and grades table, one of these columns has the same name. So number of points. Case letters, spaces are exactly the same. And we won't be using if column, so conditional column. We will be appending data this time. So we need to select points table and go on home, append queries under merge queries. Once again, we can expand it and see we can append queries as a new query, but we don't need this. We can just click append queries, and we can append at least 2 tables, but we can also append more than the one table, and we can add the grades. For example, we can even add the same table more than once. For a Power Query, this is a problem, but we want just append 2 tables, and the first one is the one in which we are, and the second is table to append its T grades, and we can press OK. And now the data from the second table, so the grade table, is added beneath the data of our first table, the points table. So we don't have student column in the grade table, so we get just null values in those cells. And we also don't have exam grade column in our students table, so we also have here null values, and it's really nice for us, and because we need this column to assign proper marks, grades for our students. And to do it, we need to first of all sort our number of points, and this column appears in both tables, so we have information in each of these columns and in each of rows. Okay, so we want to sort it from A to Z, and because in student column there isn't any information, it's null value for our grade table, this row is first, so the mark, for example grade E, is before Olivia, who reached this threshold 40 points. And thanks to that, we can just select exam grade column, and on the home tab, no, in the transform tab, we can go to fill down command, and we just copy the value from first row to rows beneath it until we get the different value, the value different than null. And based on that, we grade our students, and we just need to clean our data. So we just need to remove rows with null value in student column. So we can expand filters and just unselect null value and press OK. And that's all. We give grades for all our students, so we can go home, close and load to our next table, existing worksheet, G1 cell, and we can see. So Olivia 40 points E, and it's sorted based on number of points column, so we can clearly see that our results are okay. And Control S to save the file, and because we are using Power Query, I can use some different texts from Poland. For example, niezaliczony here, and I can write here a number, for example 6. Control S, and then refresh our data, and the result change based on our grade table. Okay, and change all or get back to previous values, doesn't matter. And last example, import information from PDF file, and in the newest Power Query version we can even import information from pictures. If it's nice and clean, Power Query will detect text numbers quite good. But today we will be importing from the PDF file, and for example crypto archive from this date, and make it a bit, it's just a zoom, and we can see I have a table here on the first page of PDF file. I have a second page, and I have also here a small table, and I add also a third table with BPB publisher, third table, third page. And it's important because Power Query detects pages and tables from PDFs, so I can close this PDF, but before that I will tell you what we want to change. In name column we have duplicate symbol values, and we want to remove them. The problem is that the symbol have different numbers of signs, sometimes 3, 4, probably could be 2, 5. We want to assume it could be any length, so we want to remove information from name column based on information from symbol column. Okay, so let's get back to our Excel, and if you don't have this option from PDF, if you won't find it, you can try to work with this table, so just from this load from table. Okay, but when you have newer Excel and Power Query, so get data from file PDF, from PDF, and it's here, and extract information from crypto archive. It doesn't really matter which file, because the process is the same. We will just change the source and the steps will stay the same. Okay, so when we get to navigator window, okay, I can zoom this also. We have this almost the same look like exporting from folders from worksheets. So we can import load all of the file, so tables and pages from PDF. But in our example, we don't need so many information. So we can see our page, first page, and we can see our first table. It should be, I think, the same information. But in most cases, when we are importing information from outside source, the in most cases the choosing table is better because the first row should be by default treated as a header. In our case, page 001, also we can see that first row is treated as a header, but it's not is as much important. And just in most cases it should be table, and we need only this table. We don't need the second table, we don't need any of the pages because the information is basically useless for us. So we just click on the first table from page 1, and then we can go transform data. We can select all 5 tables, or we can select multiple items. But when we are selecting multiple items, we will get query for each import select item. So let's just select table 001 and let's go with transform data, and this is fine. Okay, remember my previous interaction with this file, so let's refresh it. It doesn't matter much, and I want to clean name column based on the symbol column, and I have additional columns that I don't need for the first transformation I want to do. So I, for a short period of time, will just delete them. So we can select first one, then hold shift key, click on the last one, and press delete key. We get removed columns step, and let's now I can make the font larger. So we have a source, we have a navigation to our chosen table, promote headers, change data types, and remove columns. I have cleaner data. I will still be needing those removed columns later, but we'll get back to them later just by removing this step. Okay, so first of all, I need to remove somehow the information from the start of column name. We can use different approach. The one I will show you will be adding column with format extracting information text after delimiter. So we can't, based on the first characters, last characters, we want to go with text after delimiter. And in user interface we can see text parameter. We can even add new parameter, but we will be just writing text, and we will be using just text btc. We don't have an option to choose column here. In the conditional column we could choose columns. Here we can't. In user interface I can press OK, and only Bitcoin has BTC symbol at the start, somewhere in its name, so can extract information after this delimiter. But in all the other rows we don't get nothing, but we don't get nulls, we just get empty cells. So let's call them empty text string cells. Okay, so we need to change our formula and formula bar. We can see in the newer version as a red text BTC, but we can change this to reference a column. So in double square brackets we can write column name symbol enter, and this worked for us. We get text after delimiters, and the new column has default name text after delimiters. Let's change it to names, almost like a name. And now I can't just delete name column. The names column I would want to be before symbol column, but I need to get back to my deleted rows, and all steps after I removed columns are working with name or symbol column or the new columns I added, so it's fine. I could remove those columns for this short period of time for this case, for this transformation, so I could find easier this last column, but now I need to return those columns. So what I'm doing, I'm deleting the step inside of my query, so selecting this step and clicking red X. Yes, I want to delete step inside of query, and it's more complicated because when we are deleting step inside query, we need to take into account how this step change the next steps. But in our example it was simple step, just removing columns, and when I insert text after delimiter we get just those columns back, and my names columns it's in the end, and this remove columns, yes, it's name column I removed, and I need the names column. Just select this and hold left mouse key and drag it to the front. It's the simplest way, well, in this position. And when we change the table record columns, reordered columns, we can see each and every column names. We have those results, but in our data there is some more things we want to change, because we have English United States settings. Power Query didn't have problem with market cap, price and volume, but to be precise, price shouldn't be as a currency type, because currency type has precision of 4 digits, and for some of cryptocurrencies we need more precision. For example, Shiba Inu, it says price is 0. Definitely it shouldn't be 0. It should, if it was really 0, it will be worthless, and the market cap shouldn't be this high. So we need to go back to change type, data type, and here we need a decimal number, and decimal number has replaced step. Precision of 15 digits. Yeah, all 12. Yeah, no. Um, Based on previous example, I count 15 digits, and we can see it's a really small number because it's 10 to minus 10th, e to minus 5 fifth, so it's a really small number, but we can see it's not a zero. Okay, so we have to remember about some things like this, because in most cases Power Query will recognize most of data types properly, but we always have to know our data. Okay, and one more thing I want to change, or I don't want to change, is percentages, because percentages are based on Polish numbers, so the comma isn't thousand separated, is decimal separated. So when Power Query, so percentage, let's one step in the top, so promote headers, we can see nice percentages with let's make it bigger zoom, with commas. And we have also this and this rows with smaller than signs, and because of the signs those columns stays as text, but this column Power Query find nice numbers, and when the change type to percentages, it was as minus 32, minus 115. It's not possible to any of stock or cryptocurrency to lose 100% of value. It would be, it should cost less than zero, so it's not possible. So it's wrong. So the data type for 24 hours isn't percentage type, is type space text. It should stay like this for now, and we need to fix those values. First of all, we need for 1 hour and 7 days remove those smaller than signs. So we need to go to transform. So I'm selecting two columns, holding Control and clicking on the second column, and transform. And I need remove, replace values. So I want to replace smaller than to nothing, not null, nothing, so empty field, and press OK. Now I get clean values, but those columns just has number formats from Poland, so we need to change this, but we won't be able to change the settings for whole workbook, because here the English USA number formats, it's correct. The commas are thousand separators, dots are decimal separators. So here we need to force to use Polish settings, regional settings. So we are clicking ABC icon and we are using local information, local change, and not text percentages, not local English United States, but Polish Poland. And we can see here in Poland we have space as thousand separator and comma as a decimal separator, and we have all still percentages. and now I can press OK, and I have nice percentages. So I need to change the next column based on the those options the same. How now text percentages, and I can write Polish Poland once again. But when I'm using these local settings, Power Query is adding new steps by default, and I won't find these local settings from Home tab, Data type. I won't find this here. Only here the easy access for this. But when I'm using these steps, this change, I can see the exact part that is about this column, and this I can see this data type in curly brackets. This is whole part. I can copy or cut this part from this step, and I can add this here. So after this first part, this first column part, I can add comma and the second part, and I can press enter, and I can see in the first step I have percentages for 2 columns. I can change this manually, but user interface will be adding me more steps, but I can change this manually, and I can add also the third column, so percent 7 day, and this is exactly the same value. I can click check mark, and this works because for each of those columns I'm using the same regional settings, Polish regional settings. Okay, and I think it's enough for cleaning this data. So home, close, and load to, and I can load this information, this data to existing worksheet, this cell, and press OK. And just like with currencies, also percentages won't be shown properly in Excel just from copying those information from Power Query to Excel. We will get just general settings, so we need to remember about this and add proper number formats for columns. And you can see Shiba Inu, very small number in general settings, 4 zeros after the dot, and then we have some digits different than zeros. So small number, but it is still larger than 0. Okay, Control S, and that's all for today. Just a reminder, in the video description in our top chat you can find a link to BPP Publisher, Learning Power Query, and with code Learn PQ, Learn Power Query, you will get 10% discount on ebook from BPP Publisher. I don't get codes from Amazon, but maybe you get some code from Amazon and you can get even cheaper price, a smaller price than this. And yeah, and this is all. And just a reminder, this webinar is recorded and will be available publicly until Monday morning, and this code from BPP Publisher is also works till Monday. I'm not sure because of the time zones to when it ends, but somewhere from Monday morning should still works. Okay, I think you could find something useful for data transformation from this webinar, and see you in next time.